Have you ever wondered what it truly feels like to become a ghost while your heart is still beating? Have you ever questioned if the very hands that once cradled a child to sleep, protecting them from every shadow, could eventually become a source of profound, sickening embarrassment for that same child? Today, we are diving deep into a narrative that challenges the sacred foundation of maternal love and the heavy price of filial duty. Why did James, a man who possessed every luxury the world could offer, look directly into the weary eyes of the woman who gave him life and tell a room full of prestigious, elite guests that she was dead? What psychological darkness drives a son to commit such an unfathomable act of betrayal? Stay with us, because the truth behind his cold silence is far more haunting than the elaborate lie he told. As we navigate the twilight years of our existence, our insecurities often undergo a painful transformation. For many seniors residing in the United States, the United Kingdom, and across the Western world, the primary fear is no longer the inevitable decline of health or the gradual depletion of financial resources. Instead, it is the devastating fear of becoming a social liability to our own children. We harbor a silent, growing anxiety that our simple lives, our weathered faces, and our humble backgrounds will clash violently with the polished, ostentatious worlds our children have worked so hard to construct. We worry that we will be hidden away in the shadows, treated like a shameful secret that must be kept from the important people. This story is a direct reflection of that heartbreaking reality, the exact moment when a parent's mere existence is perceived as an obstacle to a child's desperate social climbing. My name is Mary Evans. I am 62 years old, and for the last decade, I have occupied a cramped, drafty, rented room on the forgotten outskirts of London. Every single morning, long before the sun even contemplates peeking through the heavy, gray clouds of the city, I am already shivering at the bus stop. I spend my exhausting days cleaning massive, floor-to-ceiling glass offices in the prestigious heart of London's financial district. My daily labor is entirely invisible to the world, much like I have become in my own life. My hands are a vivid map of my lifelong struggle. They are rough, calloused, and marked by deep, permanent lines from decades of exposure to harsh industrial detergents and heavy manual lifting. My skin is perpetually dry and cracked, regardless of how much cheap lotion I apply in the evenings. But I never uttered a word of complaint. These hands were my only tools. These hands paid every single pound for my son's elite private education. These hands were the only bridge that carried him from our world of poverty to his world of extreme prosperity. My son's name is James, and for many years, he was the only reason my heart continued to beat. James now inhabits a sophisticated world that I can only glimpse from the outside. He resides in a stunning, glass-walled penthouse that offers a panoramic view of the River Thames. He has climbed the ranks to become a senior partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the country, draped in bespoke suits that likely cost more than my entire year's rent. He moves effortlessly within circles of immense influence and cold power. However, I have noticed a terrifying pattern. The higher he climbed the social ladder, the further I seemed to fall out of his reality. I have not felt the warmth of his embrace or heard the genuine sound of his laughter in person for over 3 agonizing years. Every month, he sends me a fixed allowance, a cold, digital bank transaction that feels more like a bribe for my continued silence than a sincere act of filial care. He never sends the one thing I truly crave, his time. I spent years deceiving myself, telling my inquisitive neighbors with a forced, painful smile that my son was simply too vital to the city's legal system to visit a lonely woman like me. I was vicariously living through his achievements, completely oblivious to the fact that I was systematically being erased from his history. One remarkably rainy Tuesday morning, while I was scrubbing the floor of a tech company's break room, my eyes fell upon a discarded newspaper resting on a polished mahogany table. There, displayed prominently on the society page, was a photograph that caused the very air to vanish from my lungs. It was James. He looked absolutely radiant, standing tall in a tuxedo that seemed to fit him like a suit of royal armor. Standing beside him was a young woman who looked like a delicate porcelain doll, the daughter of a notorious billionaire. The bold headline announced their upcoming nuptials at a grand, historic hotel in the heart of Mayfair. My breath hitched, and my hands began to tremble uncontrollably. I spent the following days in a state of frantic anticipation, checking my rusty mailbox every single hour, desperately hoping to find a gilded invitation or perhaps just a brief, handwritten note explaining why he hadn't told me. But as the days turned into a week, the mailbox remained empty, occupied only by the cold London dust. It became clear that James had not simply forgotten to invite me. He had made a conscious, strategic decision to exclude me from his new, glittering life. As the morning of the wedding finally arrived, a strange and desperate courage took root in my soul. I didn't intend to cause a scene, and I certainly didn't plan to demand a seat at the prestigious head table. I simply wanted to see him. I wanted to witness my only child on the most significant day of his life, a day I had prayed for since he was a toddler. I carefully took out my best dress, a navy blue garment I had purchased for his university graduation 15 long years ago. It was visibly faded and hopelessly out of style, but I ironed it with such precision that every single crease vanished. I pinned a small, humble pearl brooch to my collar, the solitary piece of jewelry my late husband had given me before he passed away. As I sat on the crowded bus traveling toward the opulence of Mayfair, my mind was a chaotic whirlwind of fleeting memories. I remembered him as a tiny boy, sobbing uncontrollably when he scraped his knee in the park. I remembered whispering a promise to him that as long as I had breath left in my lungs, he would never have to face the world alone. I was so blinded by my love that I didn't realize he was the one who had already decided I should remain in the dark. The grand entrance of the Mayfair Hotel was a formidable fortress of opulence and exclusivity. Golden light, warm and inviting, spilled out onto the rain-slicked sidewalk, and the heavy, intoxicating scent of expensive designer perfume hung in the damp evening air like a thick veil of wealth. I stood near the velvet ropes of the entrance, feeling like a misplaced shadow, an alien entity in a meticulously curated world of shimmering silk and brilliant diamonds. Then, my heart skipped a beat as I saw him. James emerged from a sleek, black limousine, looking more like a regal stranger than the son I had nursed through fevers. He was holding his bride's hand with a protective grace that I had once hoped he would show to me. As they walked toward the grand entrance, our eyes met for a fleeting, agonizing second. I saw the immediate recognition in his pupils, a flicker of the boy he used to be, followed instantaneously by a flash of pure, unadulterated terror. He didn't see his mother standing there. He saw a catastrophic threat to his carefully constructed image. He saw the cleaning woman whose very presence might reveal the humble, gritty origins he had worked so hard to bury. A group of wealthy guests, adorned in expensive furs and sparkling watches, drifted toward James and his radiant bride. They were laughing with an easy, careless elegance, clinking crystal glasses of vintage champagne. One woman, noticing my persistent presence near the velvet rope, turned to James with a condescending tilt of her head and asked, her voice dripping with curiosity. "James, darling, who is this peculiar woman? She's been staring at you for quite some time now." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped, terrified bird. This was the moment I had envisioned in my dreams. I opened my mouth, my breath hitching, ready to speak his name, ready to tell them that I was the woman who had worked 3 grueling jobs to put him through the most elite law school in the country. I wanted to tell them that these rough hands had built his future. But James didn't give me the chance to speak my truth. He didn't even blink or flinch. He looked directly at me, his handsome face transforming into a mask of cold, impenetrable stone. James let out a sharp, artificial laugh that echoed coldly in the evening air, a sound that felt like a blade through my soul. "I haven't the slightest clue who she is," he said, his voice steady, professional, and entirely devoid of any human emotion. "She must be one of those confused, unfortunate beggars who frequent this area, hoping for a generous handout. It's quite tragic, really." The guests murmured in sympathetic agreement, looking at me with a mixture of pity and utter disgust. Then, James leaned in closer to his bride and added, loud enough for the entire group, and for me, to hear, "My mother passed away many years ago after a long illness. I am the last of my line. There is no one else." He then gestured sharply to the nearby security guards with a flick of his wrist. "Please, ensure this woman is moved along immediately. She is disturbing the peace of our guests." I stood there, physically frozen, as the world blurred into a gray smear of pain. I wasn't just abandoned in a crowded street, I was being professionally executed by my own child. As the security guards moved toward me, James took one final look at my hands, the hands that were currently trembling as I gripped my old purse. I saw the visible disgust in his eyes as he noticed the calluses, the dirt under the nails that never seemed to come out, and the scars from years of manual labor. To the billionaire's daughter standing next to him, those hands were a sign of poverty, a lack of hygiene, and a lower class. To James, those hands were a reminder of a life he wanted to forget. He had traded the hands that raised him for the hands that could sign multi-million-dollar contracts. He didn't see the sacrifice, he only saw the shame of the working class. He looked at his friends and whispered, "Look at her, she is dirty. Some people have no dignity." At that moment, I realized that my son didn't just want me gone, he wanted me to never have existed at all. I walked away from the hotel, my legs feeling like lead. I didn't know where I was going. The rain began to fall harder, soaking through my navy blue dress, making it heavy and cold against my skin. I eventually found a solitary park bench, far away from the bright lights and the laughter of the wedding. I sat there and cried until I had no tears left in my body. I felt like a ghost, a discarded piece of trash that had served its purpose and was now being thrown away. I thought about the thousands of hours I spent scrubbing floors so James wouldn't have to. I thought about the meals I skipped so he could have the best textbooks. The betrayal wasn't just about the wedding, it was the realization that my entire life's work had been dedicated to a man who viewed me as a parasite on his success. I felt a deep, hollow emptiness in my chest, a silence so profound it felt like death itself. Just as the cold was beginning to numb my senses, a shadow fell over me. I looked up, expecting a police officer telling me to move along, but instead, I saw a woman dressed in a stunning silver gown. It was Evelyn, the mother of the bride. She was holding an umbrella over my head, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of anger and deep compassion. She whispered softly, I saw his eyes back there, Mary. I saw the way he looked at you, and I saw the way you looked at him. I am a mother, too. I know a mother's gaze when I see it. She reached out and took my rough, calloused hands in her own, which were soft and manicured. But she didn't pull away in disgust. Instead, she brought my hands to her lips and kissed them. A man who lies about his own mother to protect his vanity is not a man I want for my daughter, she said firmly. He told everyone you were dead, but I think it is his soul that has passed away. Evelyn did not just offer me an umbrella, she offered me a revolution. While I sat in her car, shivering and broken, she walked back into that grand hotel with the stride of a woman who was about to dismantle a kingdom. She didn't shout, and she didn't cause a scene. Instead, she walked directly to the stage where James was standing, a microphone in his hand, ready to give a toast to his own brilliant future. Evelyn took the microphone from him, her eyes as sharp as glass. She looked at the prestigious crowd and said, "A man who builds his house on the lie that his mother is dead is a man who lives in a house of sand." The room fell into a deafening, suffocating silence. James's face turned from white to a sickly shade of gray. His carefully curated facade was crumbling in front of the very people he spent his life trying to impress. The repercussions were instantaneous. The betrayal of a mother is a stain that no amount of money or prestige can wash away. Evelyn's father, the billionaire who was supposed to become James's father-in-law, was a man of old-fashioned values. He believed that a person's character is defined by how they treat their roots. Within an hour, the wedding was officially cancelled. The guests were asked to leave, and the massive floral arrangements were moved to a local hospital. But for James, the nightmare was only beginning. The legal firm where he was a senior partner valued integrity above all else, or at least, the appearance of it. When the story of his public denial of his mother began to circulate through the elite circles of London, his reputation was decimated. He didn't just lose a bride, he lost the very social status he had sacrificed his soul to achieve. I moved into Evelyn's guest house, a beautiful cottage surrounded by a garden of lavender and roses. For the first time in 30 years, I didn't wake up to the sound of an alarm clock at 4 a.m. I didn't have to scrub floors or breathe in the fumes of industrial bleach. Evelyn treated me not as a guest, but as a sister, a companion, and a mother figure. She looked at my rough, calloused hands every day and told me they were a testament to my resilience. We spent our afternoons drinking tea and talking about our lives. I learned that she, too, had known the pain of being used by people who only loved her for her bank account. In our shared grief, we found a profound, unexpected healing. I realized that my name was Mary Evans, and I was finally more than just a cleaning woman or a shameful secret. 6 months later, a man appeared at the garden gate. He was thin, his expensive bespoke suit was wrinkled, and the arrogance in his eyes had been replaced by a desperate, hollow hunger. It was James. He had lost everything, his job, his penthouse, and his friends who vanished the moment his bank account emptied. He fell to his knees on the gravel path and sobbed, "Mother, please. I was wrong. I was blinded by the light. I need your help. I have nowhere else to go." I looked at him, and for a moment, I saw the little boy who used to hide behind my skirts. But then, I looked at my hands, the hands he called dirty in front of a billionaire's daughter. I felt no anger, only a quiet, heavy pity. I realized that the son I had raised was indeed dead, just as he had told the world. The man standing before me was a stranger. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small amount of money, the allowance he used to send me to keep me quiet. I handed it to him through the gate. "I prayed for you every day, James," I said softly, my voice steady for the first time in years. "I prayed that you would find success. But you found something else. You found the truth. You told the world I was dead, and in doing so, you gave me the permission to be reborn. I have a home now. I have a family that sees my heart and my hands as a blessing, not a burden." I didn't open the gate. I turned my back on him and walked toward the cottage where Evelyn was waiting with a fresh pot of tea. I had lost the house I was born in, but I had finally found the home I truly deserved. Does success ever justify forgetting the hands that built your staircase? What would you do if the person you loved most in the world treated you like a shameful secret? As we grow older, we must remember that our value is not determined by the pride of our children, but by the strength of our own character. If this story touched your heart or made you think about the importance of roots, please leave a comment below with the word respect. Tell me your thoughts. How would you have reacted in Mary's place? Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Until next time, remember, you are never invisible as long as you value yourself.